And we're live, everybody. Kind of honestly caught me just a wee bit off guard. I was working on another perspective, look up, and all of a sudden it's time. So, yeah, let's just do this because when the clock ticks the top of the hour, you just gotta go. And I just was somewhere else up until about 5.5 minutes ago. All right, been kind of an interesting weekend weather-wise. We've got, I believe it's the 26th or 28th. It's probably the 26th storm because we don't use all the letters in the English alphabet. We don't use Q and we don't use this and that. So it's not a full on 26. So there's some letters that are not consumed by the appetite of tropical storms and hurricanes. But we still have Eta. That continues to be an event out in the Gulf, in the Southern Caribbean and Western Caribbean at that, not far off the coast of Nicaragua at a fat Category 4 storm with winds, boom, just like all the rest of them, rapidly intensifying with winds up to 150 miles an hour. That's just insane for this time of the year. It'll kind of roll ashore through northern Nicaragua, progress across the mountainous regions of Honduras as well, and then, if this is correct, just kind of graze Belize on Friday morning, but a far, far weaker event, as it will certainly have done its damage through Nicaragua. And then we'll see it emerge back out into the Western Caribbean. Now, there are numerous models, and I've been watching them for at least 10 days now, that take this beast into the Gulf of Mexico, and the latest ones have drawn it in and around the Florida Peninsula. So we'll see what happens with that. After an early taste of winter, meaning as much as a foot of snow fell east of Lake Ontario last night, that was kind of easy to spot on the radar. It was just an ongoing event there. Temperatures will slowly warm across the Northeast. By this time next week, high temperatures could be as much as 15 degrees above normal as whatever snow fell melts away. Now, where I am in southern Colorado, had about 10 inches of snow last Sunday, not yesterday, but the previous Sunday, so 8-9 days ago, because it was a Saturday, Sunday event, but mostly Sunday. That snow is still on the north side of the house, and every bit of about 3.5 inches thick, so much cooler weather is also anticipated out west, as another cold front and another series of storms looks to be making its way in that direction. And in fact, here's some of those photographs of the snow on the lee side of Lake Ontario specifically, with the strong west winds picking up the moisture, that wave action, the moisture, the cold air, all conspire to create what will be, a lake effect event. Aurora forecast through Greenland, Iceland, much like we have seen last week, although now that we're out of daylight savings time stateside, we are an hour further into sunset. The fire situation has now been degraded or brought back to a 2. That happened late last week. Still, wildland fires, firefighters in 10 states continue to work towards containment goals on still a continuous 39 large fires, with 18 in California, still 4 in Idaho, 2 Montana, 1 New Mexico, 2 Oregon and Utah, and Wyoming. And what I wanted to look at was this low kind of circulating. We talked about it on Thursday and Friday, that likely there would be a contingent of contrails and chemtrails, and we can see those out there this afternoon. So if you're in the Four Corners area or anywhere in those 4 states, and probably surrounding western New Mexico and into southern Cal as well, this event has been laced by that activity. Let's go to visible just so we can see. There's the trails there. Let's see what it looks like in true color for you. As the trails just always work the edges of these events, the very leading edges. It's like that sport curling, where if you can just put out a little bit of a shallow valley in the ice, in the atmosphere in this case, then you can gently guide or put up resistance to the progression of some kind of spinning event. Farther to the west, what we have are fire, and then there's 2 other fires I was noticing in Oregon. Here's one long skinny plume there, one here, and then here and here up in Idaho. And I had really, truly hoped that the precipitation last weekend would have been enough to get these guys a bit of a break, but apparently that isn't so, as the drought conditions in the western states remains almost grave. It would be grave if we were going into April and May and we're already in this situation. But now that we've begun a new water year, and evaporation needs, the crops are in, the pastures are kind of wound down for the season, then it's not quite so serious. Let's skip this and move on into this. Record heat, yeah, we've got some places all the way from Billings and Casper and Cheyenne and Elko, Nevada at 73, Ely, Nevada 72. Pocatello even at 67 degrees. That just 1 degree shy of a record set back in 1965 with their period of record going back to 1939. So still some warmth out west, and so the recovery from last weekend's snow is stark. We're just kind of banging the climate from record cold to record heat to record cold to record heat, with the record dry somewhere wedged in there and a bit of a flood here and there as well. The agenda largely being for that is to reduce productivity. It keeps prices high. It keeps farmers, the land, the ecosystem in stress, amongst so many other things. So we had a couple of warm days coming in throughout the western states, and some chilly weather, mostly confined to the East Coast. That will gradually shift off to the east and farther out of the Atlantic until we get to next weekend, when another spat of very cold air drops into the northern Rockies coming up on Sunday the 8th. That storm, from what I have seen, and we'll show you momentarily, initiates a long spell. Long, I suppose, because the models we've got is upwards of 10 to 14 days of rather snowy conditions through the mountain west. So that's probably the good news. 96 just west of Winter Haven, California. 9+9, that is, at Peter Sinks, Utah. There's Ada right there with intense winds, maximum winds at 130 knots or 150 miles an hour, with a deep central pressure of 934 millibars. Movement is gently to the west-southwest at 9 miles per hour, and it will continue on that trajectory. There it is right there with the sunset happening. So those folks in Nicaragua contending with another night falling hurricane like Louisiana, the Gulf Coast, has happened several times today. This is where we are. Let's look at the mid-level water vapor imagery. Just a lot of clear skies. The deep storm and the snows yesterday, now offshore. Another little impulse. This guy right through here, triggering another round of showers with temperatures warmer than they have been. Certainly warmer than yesterday across Michigan, where the showers developed late on Halloween night, and then even a clap or two of thunder from Kalamazoo on up towards Bay City or so. But nice warmth to let these farmers get back into these fields, dry the fields, dry the crops so they can continue the harvest on so many things outside of the early harvest. Like what we need is soybean and sorghum and sunflowers and cotton even are between half and 3/4 harvested, so we could use a round of a good week of warm, dry weather, so these farmers can get 5-6 days of good weather so they can get out of the fields and do what they need to do. Here's the center of cool high pressure in southeastern Arkansas along the lower Mississippi, with cool north breezes and even these dew points. Let me zoom on in here. Dew point being the green number, the lower number. Alexandria 66 with a dew point of 30. So that really is some dry air, and that dry air now pouring over the Gulf of Mexico just by its nature begins to cool off that water and greatly reducing the risk of any additional tropical storms. So even if Ada wanted to come on north, the water is cooler, and it's just not going to be the big party that it would be had it happened 4 weeks either earlier or just like last week and Zeta. So there's our snow showers. Syracuse on the Mohawk frontier up into the Adirondacks is the snow across Lake Champlain and over towards northern Vermont, probably into the Whites of New Hampshire later on tonight, and some showers snow showers continuing in far northern Maine, Holton and Presque Isle, picking up some precip. So this is where we're going. We've got this big ridge of high pressure off the Pacific coast, and then this is what has allowed the plunging, the cool, unsettled weather into New England over the weekend. But this ridge remains in place. This is Wednesday noon. This is Thursday. So the ridge still largely in place from, say, Colorado all the way to say, eastern Ohio. So good weather pushing through there and allowing for a nice early November Let's wrap things up in the fields. Let's enjoy the sunshine. Maybe get a little color on the face just because you can before, all grief hits the fan. So then what I'm looking at is this activity, these troughs now showing up in the Pacific. I'm going to roll through this. The ridge from the west coast now shifts to way off into the Gulf of Alaska. Hawaii's still out here, so still out of view. But what that means is this allows for a wavelength, a trough, to begin to form in the western states. And then another one kind of drops in on Wednesday the 11th. And then another one comes in on Saturday, the Friday the 13th, Saturday the 14th, and then another one after. And this is what California needs. This is what the entirety of the West needs. And ultimately what that leaves behind is a whole lot of snow in those higher terrains. If we come on in here, and I'm going to roll over some of these snow totals through Montana, 20, 30 inches, even into Sioux Falls. That's 20 inches worth of snow to fall. Rochester, Minnesota, north of Minneapolis, MSP, all through there. We're looking at a fat foot to 2 feet, not quite 2 feet, but there may be some places, and we add some wind to it that guarantees some 2-foot totals. So enjoy this week across the middle of the nation and the Rockies. Enjoy it, because what's coming at the end of it, how this thing ends, is with a massive exclamation of winter-type weather. And the snowfall totals across western, northwestern Montana are significant, 20, 30 inches, and even more so Saskatchewan and over to northern Alberta. But you'd kind of expect it that far north. But the mountains will do exceedingly well. So those fires in Idaho, those fires in the mountains of Oregon and Washington, those fires in Utah and western Colorado, all will draw to a close this coming week, as this kind of snowfall, this is a fat 60 inches on the level in Montana. And I can guarantee you there are very, very few farms, ranchers that will be ready to contend with this kind of a snow event that happens between about the 6th and the 12th of November. So beginning this weekend and then continuing for the entirety of the following week, we get a couple of waves of very, very healthy snow to move on through. See, this is what happens. You see that kind of record heat ahead of these deep troughs, these deep lows. And what has been pushed up, the heat has been pushed up ahead of the storm, the inbound storm, then has to be compensated because it then pulls down cold from the other side. That's just how balance works. So one record always belies or brings about yet another. So this is precip anomalies. This will be the last one. No, there'll be one more. Through Montana, through the southern portions of the Canadian Prairie provinces, also down into southeastern Missouri. So these places not terribly dry. Let's come back to the drought map just because I want to. There's some drought, Springfield, Missouri, but it's Montana. That's a lot of snow. I'm telling you, that is wicked, wicked snowfall totals from Montana. Let's come up here. I'm going to come in and do U.S. states. I'm going to focus on MT just because, why not? And see where this brings us. I'll scroll this out. Oh, we're going to go 18Z. Sure you would. The new model's coming in. So I've got to scroll back to the 12Z, which gives us the full 10-day run. And then we can see 72, 80 inches, 57 inches, 57 inches, 57, 56, 70 inches. So this is a big event. And I would trust that the meteorologists up there in Missoula and Butte and Billings and Miles City, maybe even into Wilson, North Dakota, certainly through southern Canada, are aware, because this kind of event is difficult to prepare for. You can only just clean up afterwards. And then the CPC, the Climate Prediction Center, certainly highlighting above normal precip and the shivering temperatures in the west while the east is cool. So Calgary, enjoy that record heat today, 139-year record. Enjoy it. I know the sun is setting even as we speak, but nevertheless, enjoy it. All right, I got another perspective coming up here in a little less than 50 minutes, 45 minutes or so, talking about the reset and the many parts to it. And it's really going to be a tough beast to be able to negotiate if you don't know what's going down. All I know is that what we're being told by the media are simply untruths, and especially if you're watching ABC, CBS, NBC, for goodness sakes, the network I used to work so much time for. I can't believe how far off the end that they've gone. And then even Fox. So where do you go for truth? And if you see massive censorship on your social media, so other individuals that you trust, where do you gather that information? Where does that come from? All right, I'll see you at that time, 6 o'clock Mountain, for another perspective. And participate in this discussion, because I really like input. It gives us a little bit something to talk about. All right, have a great evening. It's already dark out there. You used to have the sun shining on the curtain behind me, but it's gone. All right, see you in a little bit. In the meantime,